Hi guys, I'm Sharonda Isadora and welcome to Brazen Babe Reviews. And in this video, I will be doing a book recap, and that recap will be on A Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney. And Miss McKinney, we have some things to talk about, so let's get to it, shall we? Okay, so I will read you the blurb so that you can get a general idea of what this story is about. This is more of like a young adult, new adult type read, and it is a fantasy, urban fantasy, and this is a retelling of Alice in Wonderland. So here we go. The first time, okay, this isn't the Wonderland you remember, and it surely isn't, child. The first time a nightmare came, Alice nearly lost her life. Now, with magic weapons and hardcore fighting skills, she battles these monstrous creatures in the dream realm known as Wonderland. Yet even warriors have curfews. Life in real world Atlanta isn't always so simple. As Alice juggles an overprotective mom, a high maintenance best friend, and school, keeping the nightmares at bay is turning into a full-time job. When Alice's handsome and mysterious mentor is poisoned, she has to find the antidote by venturing deeper into Wonderland than she's ever gone before. And she'll need to use everything she's learned in both worlds to keep from losing her head, literally. All right, so I'm a fan of all things Alice in Wonderland. I love the original Alice in Wonderland. I love the retellings of Alice in Wonderland. I'm a huge fan of Tim Burton's, the way he did his retellings and stuff like that. So I am a huge fan of that world. I love Alice. I love Wonderland. So when people can come up with good and original ideas of the story, I am here for it. And I was here for A Blade So Black. So as you can see, we have another Alice. She's a black girl, and she is this teenager, as the blurb says, in Atlanta. When we go inside of the story, I will try not to give away too many spoilers, but obviously there will be some. Always try to not to run my big mouth, but sometimes it just happens. Sorry, it is what it is. So when we go inside of the story, Alice has lost her father. And during her fear and her grief of losing her dad, she comes across one of these nightmares. And this is also where she meets Addison Hatter, who is Miss McKinney's version of the Mad Hatter. And it's not pronounced Hatter, it's actually pronounced Hatter. Bella, come on, ma'am, go away. So this is where she meets Addison Hatter, and Addison offers to train Alice into become a dream walker. And dream walkers are people that are able to take on these nightmares that are coming out of Wonderland and are able to come into the human realm and wreak some havoc, basically. And actually, because humans are actually the ones that create these nightmares in Wonderland, humans are also the only ones that are able to assist in killing these nightmares. So this is where she runs into Hatter, and Hatter decides, because Generally, when Hatter and the other mentors from Wonderland are, out fighting like nightmares and stuff like that, generally no one is able to see them. But I guess it takes like a special kind of person, someone like Alice, and some of the other characters inside of the book that are able to see them. And this is when he runs into Alice, and he decides to take Alice during her grief. He decides to take Alice on, becomes her mentor, and train her to be, like I said, and become a dream walker. And she goes into Wonderland every now and again to take care of these nightmares. What I enjoyed so much about this story is not just Miss McKinney's re-imaging of Alice. She also re-imaged other characters in Wonderland as well. Addison Hatter, for example. He wasn't your regular Mad Hatter, that you've seen in various revamps of Alice in Wonderland. Hatter in this book is, a young guy, probably not as much as older as Alice in human years. But he's kind of like this grunge rocker type of a teenager, and he just has this very different way about him inside of Miss McKinney's version of Alice in Wonderland. And so are there other characters. Take the Tweedles from Alice in Wonderland. They're not actually inside of Wonderland in Miss McKinney's version of this story. They are actually human boys, twin boys from Russia, and they are like Alice. They're dream walkers that are able to go in and out of Wonderland to take care of nightmares and stuff like that. And what happens in this version of Alice, in Miss McKinney's version of Alice, is that you do have the war that goes on, but you have a war between not sisters. You have a war between a family that kind of like starts off this catalyst of these nightmares able to go back and forth between Wonderland and the human realm. And so you have the Black Queen, and she has 3 daughters. She has the red queen, the white queen, and then there's another young daughter. And what happens is the Black Queen loses the young daughter, and this starts off this kind of like family war. And people have to, same thing, people have to take sides, and the sisters actually have to go up against their mother to try to stop her, because when she loses her youngest daughter, she goes mad, and she just doesn't want to destroy, in her grief, in her sorrow, she just doesn't want to, in her anger as well, she just doesn't want to destroy Wonderland. She wants to destroy the human realm as well, because we do get a little peek of the original Alice inside of this book, and that Alice starts this catalyst of this war between this family. I won't give you too much, like I said, there'll be some spoilers, but not a lot. But the original Alice, blonde hair, white dress, headband, the little white apron and stuff. We get a little peek of her, just kind of like a brief, she kind of like a brief thing, but her appearing in Wonderland as well, kind of like I said, kind of like starts off this catalyst of this war between the mother and the daughters. And the thing is, with Hatter was actually on the Black Queen's side. And what you have is, because of this war, and people had to choose between the Black Queen and her daughters and stuff like that, when the war was over and the daughters had to do what they had to do to, to get Wonderland back to whatever, there were people banned, right? So you have Hatter and these other people that were banned out of Wonderland. and they are actually protectors between Wonderland and the human realm, so that when these nightmares do escape or are able to escape, even if they're inside of Wonderland, they are actually the ones that are actually taking on people like Alice to train them and, to fight the nightmares, rather they're inside Wonderland or not. I love the story. It was very exciting. If you know me, you know, I I'm really not a big fan of young adult, new adult type reads. But when I do read them, I like to get characters that kind of like have an adult way about them. And because Alice had to deal with so much, rather she was home or rather she was in Wonderland, she had this adult way about her. So did the other characters in this, inside of A Blade So Black. Um, because they had so many kind of like adulting things to do, they read like adults in the story, and I can dig that. So the story kind of like the beginning of the book kind of like, in my opinion, kind of like was slow to pick up because we're getting to know Alice and her relationship with Hatter, her relationship with her friends and her mom, and how Alice is trying to like balance being a hectic kind of a teenager and also being this kind of like warrior, fighting nightmares in Wonderland. And she has to kind of like balance this all. And also, Alice, in my opinion, never really fully got the chance to grieve or mourn the loss of her father. Alice's way of dealing with the loss of her dad was when Hatter, when Hatter took her on as a dream walker. When you're going through something and you're sad or you're frustrated or you're just going through whatever, sometimes Alice dealt with her frustrations in dealing with everything and everyone around her was like taking them out on when she was fighting monsters. That was her grieving process, but she never really got the chance to really grieve because when the father died, it was just her and her mom. And her mom kind of like checked out early, so it kind of like left Alice a little bit on her own to, not just to get herself better, but also to get her mom better. So in my opinion, Alice really didn't have enough time, didn't get a chance to properly grieve over the loss of her dad. So after a year into, trying to like juggle this this Wonderland in this human realm, things are starting to bubble over. And we have a little bit of a romance, romantical things going on inside of the story because Alice is a teenage girl, and she kind of like has like this, we kind of get like this kind of like crush tension building between her and Hatter, which I just thought was just, when I got to that section of the story, I was just like, okay, so this isn't the Alice and the Hatter, that we know from previous tellings or anything like that. But I thought it was just, it kind of like flowed well inside of the story. And, Allison has to deal with her feelings towards Hatter and, trying to not balance, but trying to like figure out, if maybe like her feelings towards Hatter are going to be reciprocated. But also while she's trying to figure that out, She also has one of her other friends, Chester, or Chest as they call them in the story. He likes Alice. And, we kind of have like some romantical things going on or whatever. And it's just, what I liked about the story so much was just Alice was just your regular typical teenager, just going through the motions, right? Just dealing with her feelings about boys, rather her feelings towards Hatter or towards Chess. I like that she had like this confusion going on with her, like I like Addison or Hatter, possibly may love him, but I have my other friend, my other male friend that I'm, supposed to be best friends with, and he's kind of like giving me the vibes that he likes me. So, how do I balance that? So I kind of like even though we had some heavy things going on in the story, I like that Alice also, I don't know why my mind wants to keep telling me to say Allison, and that's not right. But I like that she had like these also kind of like regular, typical teenage things going on. But like I said, we do have some serious things inside of the story, in that dealing with Alice's grief, and also the serious thing that as girls, as women, as black women, really, how we are kind of like programmed at times to not properly grieve. When you're going through something, it's just like, be strong, move on, get over it. And I got a little bit of that, from Alice when reading the story. When she wanted to break down and just, because she did cry a lot in the book, dealing with the things that she had to deal with. But there were moments where she, even when people were kind of like trying to urge, things out of her, she always was just like, I'm fine, I'm all right, so we got a little bit of that, how sometimes, we as women, especially black women, are always, made to feel like, to tamper down feelings and just, move on to the next thing. So I enjoyed that aspect. She was really, the way Miss McKinney wrote Alice in the story, she was really kind of like this multi-faceted type of a girl, right? She went through all of these things. She's having these emotions about her mentor Hatter, and maybe emotions about another boy, but she's also dealing with other things around her. Her friendship with her best friend Courtney, how that starts to affect her going in and out of Wonderland, doing these battlings, especially her relationship with her and her mother, because her and her mother are grieving. But there's also this issue that we have that goes in the story, where another young black girl is killed by police, and that kind of like gets her mother to be even more overprotective of Alice, because in her mother's grief of losing her husband, I got that from Alice, even though I was kind of like frustrated with her mother at some points during the story. I also understood exactly how she feels, because it's like, I lost my husband, now I have this other black child that was killed, and now I have to worry about my own daughter. So, if I lost my husband, I can't take losing my daughter as well. So her fear of, Alice becoming like this young girl that was lost inside of a Blade So Black, kind of like, got her to be overbearing, even more, a little bit more overbearing on Alice, and that kind of like took a toll on Alice, and it gets her to this decision that she has to make of, does she stay a dream walker, or does she quit? But as she makes this decision, this thing, something happens, and Hatter is poisoned, and Alice has to go a little bit deeper inside of Wonderland, and that's where the story kind of like picks up. But I just love the story. It was just a great retelling of Alice in Wonderland. It was so much action in it, especially the fight scenes that Alice did. Most of the action kind of like happens towards like the middle, towards the end of the book. Once she goes further inside Wonderland to get the help that to come back and get Hatter and stuff like that. So most of the action picks up like at the middle and end of the book, but it's good. It's really, really good. We have the queens or whatever, but we get more of the White Queen's daughter, and she's the one. She's also kind of like this teenagey type character or whatever, very regal, very still have this adult way about her, but they all are trying to they all come together to kind of like take on this threat that suddenly happens. We get to return like the twist of the story, especially with the Black Knight, and it was just like I was just like, wow, that is just really, really something. Like, who would have thought that, I was just like, So it was just like this really, really great twist on Alice in Wonderland. From the end, I guess we are going to get a continuation on this story. So I'm very excited to see what Miss McKinney brings to what more she brings to this world that she has created. It's really, really something, and I just want to see the development of Alice and and Hatter, and the friends that she has made, rather they were in the human realm or in Wonderland, how these characters progress inside of this world that Miss McKinney has managed to create. It is amazing. Like, the story is just so well done. Like the plot and the world building and the character arcs, they're just perfect. I love it, and like I said, I'm not a fan. I'm not to say I'm not a fan. I'm not the one to like read young adult books or whatever. But this is something I can get behind. I just love it, and the way that she just kind of like this young Black girl who is who manages to make herself a superhero, and how she like cosplays, and stuff like that. How kind of like that cosplaying kind of like becomes part of her, of her thing when she's inside of Wonderland taking care of these nightmares and stuff like that. And her biggest cosplay type of a character, of course, is Stella Moon. So it's kind of like this bringing together of like cosplaying and Alice in Wonderland. It was just the perfect blend, and I kind of like love that we get like this feisty young Black girl, but also has kind of like this nerdiness, geekiness about her. You know what I mean? She can be the nerd, she can be the geek, but she'll kick your ass as well, and I'm down for that. I love that. So I highly recommend grabbing this book. It's just really, really just well done. Just, everything, like I said, from the characters to the plot to just the story itself, it's just great. I mean, like the diversity of the story, the diversity of the characters. We have the twins, they're like Russian, and I just love that this world that she built. You have like these different characters from like different parts of the country, rather they were in Wonderland or in the human world. It's just like, even like the Black Queen and her children, like how some of them had like brown skin and some of them had like white skin. It's just very, very well done. You know what I mean? Just a very, like, just the diversity of this book alone is just amazing. And I can't rave enough about it. I love it. And you definitely should add it to your shelves. You should definitely give it to, you know, your nieces, daughters, you know, sisters, cousins, aunts, moms, whatever. I think everybody should read this book, even your nephews, your sons, whatever. I think everybody should read this book because shit, Hatter himself is just to die for. So, 5 stars I gave this one on Goodreads. It's a great book. Yeah. So, until the next one, guys, later days. Bye.